Okay. So I've never really done this before, and I'm gonna try to do it now, cause I've seen some videos kind of like it online, and overall I was just kind of, yo, can this shit? Ooh, ooh, I hate metal sometimes. Hold on, my fault. But I've seen this online. Holy, I've seen this online a lot, and I wanted to try it. Holy, why is my? I guess that's normal actually. Okay, I just wanted to try something like this and just be able to hop on after something happens and then just record how I feel about it with some sort of Minecraft footage to just make it more interesting. At least, holy, yeah, I'm turning this shit. Oh, would I like that? Okay, okay, let's turn this shit on. But yeah. So this, do I have a texture pack on? Oh, it's this shit. Okay. Well, basically, right. I'm gonna be trying to. I'm taking this shit off. I'm just gonna be talking about my life and shit. I know if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to. You can click off the video right now. But I've been wanting to do this for a while, and not specifically because like I want attention or anything. I'm not gonna just use my real name. I'm not gonna use other people's real names because that's weird as shit. But I feel like I struggle a lot. I struggled a lot as a kid to really talk about my feelings, and it's not because I didn't have people to talk to. Obviously, I did, but I wasn't as close with them as I should have been. You know. So, like, let's say my dad. You know, I wasn't as close with my dad a while ago, and we've gotten closer and stuff. I've told him about some of the things I've done. Obviously, not everything, but you get what I mean. Right? And within that, like it feels relieving because I've always been wanting that. Yo, oh my gosh, am I using the wrong mic? Okay, wait. Oh, is that better? Okay, it is. But yeah, within that, I feel like wait, I'm gonna turn my mic up. Yeah, within that, I just feel like I get a lot more comfortable, and I like that. I like being able to talk about those things with my dad, and I feel like everybody should be able to do that with their dad. But that's just something I struggled with for a long time, and it's fine if you struggle with it and you don't want to fix it. Like that's your choice. You don't have to be super close with your parents, but that's just something that is like normalized, you know. And I would like to. I would like to be close with my dad and like close with my mom. But I don't know why. I just really struggled with that for a while. Okay. And like really I was just I don't know if it was just like the part of me that wanted to seek attention and stuff and just wanted to be like, "Oh yeah, everything's about me. Look, I can't talk to my parents," stuff like that. Like no, that shit genuinely I feel like this was something that I struggled with for so long that I couldn't really tell anybody about, which is why this is like the first time I've really talked about it on camera. Because I used to just talk to my phone. Like I used to pull up the camera and just look at myself. But what that really just did was like make me hate the way I looked for a while, or made me insecure about very specific things, and I still am. But I feel like I'm more conscious about things I can't change, which sucks. Cause like, and for anybody that sucks. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody to be conscious and insecure about something they can't change. Like for a lot of people, height. I'm lucky to be the height I am and to be comfortable with my height. But I know people who aren't, and I feel really bad for them. And I can see it. Like if it's not in direct context clues, I can see it in the way they talk about themselves and the way they present themselves, the way they act. And I'm not trying to say this like I'm a genius mastermind or some bullshit. Like like I'm not light, you know. Like I can understand things about people, but I'm not saying it's anything special. And one of the things, like one of my friends, let's call him S, because he's slightly short, you know. I see what he does a lot of the time is just try to seek attention, which obviously you want to be included, right? But I feel like he has so much more he can bring to the table, and he doesn't really have to do all that he does. Like me and my friends have this joke with him where we say, "Oh, you're doing too much," you know? And some of that is true, and I feel bad because I felt the same way back in the day when I was super insecure about everything, and I acted so outwardly that people had no choice but to see me and recognize me. But it gets to a point where that's just annoying, you know? And yesterday when I hung out with S, it was very apparent, and I don't think it was just to me, I think it was to my friends. And I don't know if I'm the only one that really recognizes it. I'm guessing I'm not, because it's not something really hard to see. It's pretty obvious. And when I do look at how he acts and I look at myself maybe like 3, 4 years ago when I was in middle school, I don't see anything different really. I see me, this the same insecure little boy I was. And I'm not saying he's completely insecure. Okay, I know this guy, and he can be very confident when he wants to be. Okay, and like I'm not saying this on him because he's a very capable person. And but I yeah, I just really see this part of him that comes out sometimes, and I don't like it. Obviously, like I would much rather him be himself. But it's gotten to the point where right now that is himself. Like that's the only one I've ever known of him. I can see, I've seen other parts of him, and I know when he's truly being himself or when he's just overreacting. And I feel like he has ADHD, right? And I struggle with the same thing. It's not as big of a physical struggle. It's more of a mental struggle and like motivational struggle. And we both have that thing. And I feel like a lot of the time it's impulsive. And I think he has the more impulsive type. I have a more inattentive type. And the fact that he might not have full control over what he's doing, or it might not be second nature to think about what you're about to say or what you're about to do, just sucks. I used to like I wouldn't say I do, but I've gotten so much better at thinking before I speak. And it's not in like every situation. Obviously, I have my moments where I say stupid shit. Like one time I was out with a bunch of people and my friend who is a woman who I do not like at all. But my friend who is a woman, I said something very stupid about her appearance and obviously I was not thinking before I spoke and that really hurt her. And ever since, this was only a couple weeks ago too. Ever since then, I've felt so bad and it just shows how like just a second, not even a second, just less than a second of your time about thinking about what you really just said, I I feel like that makes so much of a difference, and especially not only to yourself but to others too. And if you do any form of formal speaking, I feel like that also applies. You can't just go around saying stuff, you gotta put a little bit of effort into what you say and how you talk and how you present it or how you present the facts. And I feel like as someone with ADHD, I'm not completely blaming this. This could also just be me. But I feel like when I talk, I'm not fully expressing all the information I know or all the information I have, and it sucks because I feel like context has got to be one of the most important things in the world. And when I'm not able to fully give all of it, I just feel bad, and so many times I can't count how many times there's been where something bad has happened and someone asks about it, I tell them about it, and then they get a completely different story because my context wasn't up to code. Like my context wasn't enough, and now there's another thing, and now I'm getting in trouble for this, and I just feel like it's so easily avoidable, but it's so hard for me. Like for others, I can tell. I have this friend, let's call him H, and I feel like he is someone who's really good at giving the correct context, and I am not, and I like that about him. Like that's something I look up to him for. Like I try to be not like him, but in the same likeness that he does. I want to be able to speak with such context. And I feel like it's weird to explain. It's not something you just like say, "Oh, my bad, I'm not giving full context." Like that's not something you would just exclaim. And I wish I could. And honestly, I could, but then there's a part of me that's like, "No, you're being awkward, you're being weird." And that's the insecure part of me. Like my insecurity was not only in my physical um being, it was also my mental state, and I was insecure not only about my insecurity, which sounds fucking stupid, but also the amount of like effort and time I put into things, or however much I thought I was putting effort and time into things, when in reality I wasn't. And I hated that because I wanted to do so much, but I wasn't doing enough. And in the moment I thought I was doing enough, but when in reality I look back on it, I wasn't. And then matter of fact, I'm actually doing way less than I actually needed to. And that leads to so many complications in my life that I feel like it's just part of me. And I hate that because I feel like so many times I'll have motivation to do something, and the procrastination demon just walks in and he says, "Do you really need to do that, or are you overstressing yourself about this?" And I feel like that's an excuse I use a lot. That, oh, I'm just stressed out, and that's why I'm pushing myself to do this. But really, stress is a great thing. You should abuse stress to the most you can because it's such a good way to make yourself do stuff. And I feel like the same can be said with insecurity. Like I'm not obviously being insecure is ridiculous. I hate it and I don't want anybody to be insecure. But using insecurity to change things that are bad about you is a good thing. If you can be insecure about yourself being a shitty person and then because of that insecurity you change, I feel like at the end of the day that's a net positive. And those feelings that you went through and you hated yourself for are now they're paid back double with the amount of with how much better of a person you are. And I feel like for me, I took that to heart when I started doing less. And I know that sounds weird when I was just talking about how I'm not doing enough, but if you look at the context of like my social context, and I feel like this is sort of carried on to in school, where in my social context I was always doing too much, and in school I was doing too much back in the day. And I thought, okay, I'm just not gonna do as much in social contexts, and I'm gonna surround. I didn't change who I surrounded myself with, but I changed how I talked, and I changed what I said. And I feel like to the to a certain point it was good, but then I start not doing as much in school, and I feel like that's something you can't go from school to social like that. You can't just snap your fingers and you're there, you know? You've got to take things into consideration very differently when looking at something from like a school perspective and then a social perspective. Cuz I'm not terrible at school. I'm terrible in two subjects. And I feel like those subjects are where the that's definitely where insecurity kicks in. I feel like cuz I'm terrible at Spanish, and when I would do a hearing exam, right? I would do a hearing test, and it doesn't click. I don't hear any words. I just hear nothing. I hear mumbo jumbo. I hear random letters, and I hear phrases that don't make sense, and it's like I don't know if that's up to ADHD or if that's up to like something else. Like it's so confusing to me, and I hate that because I'm I'm Brazilian, right? And Spanish and Portuguese are very similar to each other. And I feel like that's another insecure part of me that I'm not truly Brazilian. Like, yes, I have the passport, and yes, I'm half Brazilian, but I don't speak Portuguese as much as I could. I don't speak Portuguese almost at all anymore because I forgot so much of it. And I feel like that's not completely my fault. Well, like, I moved to a different country. You know, it's much harder to speak Portuguese when you're in a different country. And my parents did not really try to speak the same language, you know, as much. So like they were just speaking English. And I see other families with them speaking like, oh shit. Wait, is that good? And I see other families like speaking good speaking their native language with their children, and I feel jealous about that. Like with insecurity comes jealousy. It's unavoidable. And I feel like that's something I hate. I wish jealousy wasn't tied to insecurity. Because when you become insecure, there's always going to be someone that has something that you don't want or want. So, I feel like one of the symptoms of insecurity is that not only do you notice things about yourself more, but you notice things about others more. So, let's say I'm insecure about my nose. I'm not, but okay, one thing I am insecure about is how much I weigh. I'm pretty lightweight. I'm like 70 kg, but I'm much taller, so I should definitely weigh more. But I feel like that's the first thing I look at with people. Holy crap. That's the first thing I look at with people. I look at their weight and I'm like, is that a good weight or is that a bad weight? And I feel like I want to be free of that. I want to be able to look at someone for their personality and like see the good things first and the bad things later. You, like that's what I mean, you know? And another thing, I feel like recently I got TikTok maybe a while ago. I don't think I'll let my kids have TikTok for a while. And that's because of the type of communities it has. Not necessarily bad communities. That's my flint steel. Okay. Not necessarily the communities it has, but more of like how those communities act. one of the things. A lot of my feed is about looks, and a part of me thinks that yes, I look good, but then there's a more conscious part inside me that says, do you really look good, or is that just your conscious telling you that because you're insecure about your looks and you want a way to cope? And that that that's what freaks me out. Okay, I worry about how I look all the time, and I feel like I don't like that. I don't like having to worry about what I look like all the time. Like always, I'm always adjusting my hair. I'm always making sure my throat is tucked, or I'm clenching my jaw, or I'm trying so much. I'm doing too much essentially in this part of my life, and I really shouldn't. I'm I'm still 16, like I am a child, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me to putting that much effort into something as trivial as looks, and as something as changeable and uncontrollable as looks. I can't control and change my face structure. Like theoretically I could with surgery and other insane methods. But obviously I don't see that as an option. I'm not crazy. Okay? Like obviously I know there's methods to look better, and me personally, I feel like I look very like I feel like I look good. Okay, I'm just gonna go straight up and say that. But like really, it's hard to describe because of how much time I've put into. Okay, sorry. Let's approach this with some more clarity. I did not go outside for a long time. I used to be very addicted to multiple video games, and that just made me not want to go outside a lot. And even when my friends were inviting me out, and I regret that so much. And I feel like now that I've matured and I've hit puberty, that I and other people have agreed that I look good. And I'm not saying this, I'm not trying to be prideful, and and that's another part of insecurity, that whenever you're trying to talk good about yourself, you just start to feel prideful. I feel like that's an insecurity that a lot of people have and that a lot of people should have. Which, again, I'm not trying to wish upon anyone like any type of suffering, but I'm saying that insecurity has non-direct ways of helping people. And one of the ways, so I'm regarded among people as a semi or as a pretty attractive person. And now that doesn't necessarily mean I can be treated differently. It doesn't mean I should be treated differently. It does mean that sometimes I do get treated differently because of my looks, and that like my friend S, let's just say he doesn't go out with as many people or as many girls, you know. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Okay, you can do what the fuck you want. I don't care. Okay, I'm not gonna not be friends with you if you get like if you don't talk to any girls, obviously. Like I don't care. That's your choice. Like I care for him so much, I would legitimately not care if he never had talked to a girl in his life, right? That might mean that I don't do everything with him to try to spare his feelings. Like when I go out with a girl, I might not tell him about it because I don't want to make him insecure, you know? And I feel like this is one of the things he's insecure about is his height, and he's always saying, "Oh, the only reason you're getting girls is because you're tall." And I'm like, "Yeah, probably." So I'm agreeing with him. But I feel like it's a weird method of self-love, because not only are you saying you're not even talking about yourself at that point, and which is confusing because oh nice, because you're not talking about yourself anymore. You're mainly talking about another person, which to me just seems odd if you want to make yourself feel better, you know? And then the second thing is that you're actively putting me down. And a lot of the time it's just jokeful banter, but I can tell when his voice seems sincere and he genuinely means that like if you were short you would not get any girls. And I feel like obviously, again, just repeating, getting girls is not a crazy thing. Okay? You don't have to get a billion girls and like just be super like you don't have to be like that, you know? I'm dead. Surely they don't see me. Okay. Getting girls should not be your number one priority as a teenage boy. Your priority should be loving your parents and doing the most. Okay, we're good. Doing the most with what you can. And I feel like to him, his priorities aren't straight. What the? I'm getting sniped. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of people don't have their priorities straight, and that sucks. Because for something as stupid as girls, like it's ridiculous. I don't think anybody should be worrying that much about what they think or about what girls think of you. Like, bro, if you love yourself, that's enough. Okay, and I'm not that super like, oh, love yourself all the time. Don't look at any of your negatives type of shit, you know? Because I don't like when people just look at something that they do actively and then they just ignore it when they know it's bad. Like that's a bad quality, and I hate when they're just like, oh, it's fine because I'm me, you know, and I love myself. That's a terrible excuse. You should be actively trying to strive to be a better person, not to just be mediocre. And I feel like that's what humans are designed to do. That's what humans are designed to be. They're designed to be a type of being that wants the better for themselves and wants the better for people they care about, you know? Okay, that's nice. But okay, can we get back on topic, guys? So, essentially, is this two in one? I don't know, I'm tripping. It's good, guys. Do I have gold? I feel like people oftentimes care too much about stuff they can't control, and that leads them down paths of just hatred, self-hatred, which sucks. I would never. What the? And okay. And I feel like that's something that is both good and bad. But let's talk about the girls thing. So yes, I feel like girls find me attractive, and I don't want to be prideful for saying that. I'm just stating what I've observed, okay? And I don't expect recognition for that or anything. That's stupid. I don't feel like anybody should be recognized for being able to talk to the person of the opposite sex. That's weird. Like, buddy, I feel like if someone said, "Yeah, look at me, I can talk to so many girls," I'm like, that's a terrible excuse of like that's something that people would say and like that's my life purpose. Like, no, your life purpose is not to talk to the opposite gender. That doesn't make sense. I don't like that in a someone. If I meet a guy and I'm playing and I want to be friends with him and he just starts going on about, yeah, I've got so many girls. Like look at yourself, dude. That's not something you should desire. That's not something you should be showing off. Like something you should show off is your accomplishments. And I don't give a fuck what your accomplishment is, as long as it's not like something as basic and trivial as talking to someone of the opposite sex. And I feel obviously it's not trivial for everyone. It's not easy for everyone. I know there's people with social anxiety who struggle with that. But in this scenario, this is the first time I've ever met you and you're already talking about how many girls you can talk to. Like that's not a good representation of who you are. And for all I know, you could be a shitty person and like girls only talk to you because you have money or girls only talk to you because like this is that. Like if this is my first impression of you, the first thing you should be saying is not, "Oh, I talk to so many girls." That's corny, and it's weird. Like you could have chosen. You could have told me about anything about yourself. You could have said, "Yeah, I play video games," or "I've made money playing video games," and those are things I don't give a shit. Like obviously, I'm gonna be like, "That's a cool interest you have," but I don't always have to agree with the interest. Like if someone says, "Yeah, I make YouTube videos for a living," obviously I'm gonna be like, "That's cool," because that's something I would aspire to be, and that's something I would like to be. But if I meet someone and they say, "Oh, I make," okay, this is an outrageous example, by the way. Let's say, oh, they say, "Oh yeah, I make corn videos." That instant like, obviously, no, that's a terrible example. Yo, cut that out. Cut that out. What the hell? Yo, that was ridiculous. Okay, let's say, oh, I'm a professional tennis player. Obviously I don't agree with you on that. Like I don't like tennis, It's not my favorite sport. I've never played tennis. But at the same time, it's something that is actually useful. Like talking to girls is not a life skill, okay? It is something that you can do, and if you can do it, sure, like good, all right. You've learned basic human communication, but if you use that as something to flex, especially with people who are not super confident, you're weird, Like I would much like with the tennis guy. Oh, you play tennis? That's cool. Maybe we should play tennis sometime. You can teach me how to play. I've never played tennis. You have things to talk about. You have experiences to be had. Experiences that don't involve other people. Like I'm not saying that, okay, let's say, oh, the guy that you met, his only thing that he can ever do is talk to girls, right? Sure, you could go out with him, but you could hang out with him, you could talk to girls with him or something. I don't know. But if that's the only thing you really do, and honestly, the way I'm saying it does not make it make sense. Logically, yes, the guy who talks to girls would be a good friend to have because you can go on dates with them. But at the same time, talking and dating girls in general is such a complex thing that it shouldn't be like a skill like that, Weave. And it's not like a skill. It should be something you can do and something that it's not something people admire you for. It's sure being social is something cool that people can admire you for. But when it gets to the point where it's like, yeah, I can only be social with girls. That's when I'm like, are you okay as a human being? Like, are you confident in yourself as a man that you have to talk to girls to reassure yourself that you're attractive, and I feel like I went through that for a while. I'm dead. And I feel like that's not something. Relationships are just too complex, and people are too complex to have being talking to someone a skill. Okay, I'm not like it's ridiculous. Social skills is completely different. Social skills can be persuading, it could be marketing, it could be connecting with people with friendship rather than with intentions of, people like stuff people do, like without intentions of getting them or like attaining them. And especially when you say, "Oh yeah, I got a girl." Like I feel like that's so weird and materialistic, and that's the first thing I hear from you. I'm not gonna like you as a person. It doesn't matter if you're the greatest guy ever. That's if that's the first thing you say to me, and I don't have any other like experiences with you, or I've never heard what else you have to offer to me, and that's the first thing you say. I'm like, what? I'm just confused, and I'm like, why? Out of all the things you could have said to me, like, oh yeah, I play soccer, or I play basketball, or I play volleyball, you chose to say I got a girl, and not even like a girlfriend. You just say, yeah, I get girls. Like, it's weird, and I just don't like when people do that. Okay, I'm sorry if I just went on an insane rant that just kept going in circles. I'm gonna have to cut a lot of that out. But yeah, a lot of the time when I think about myself, I think, yes, I could, if I wanted to, I could go out right now and talk to a girl and strike up a conversation. And there's an egotistical part of me that says, yeah, you can do that. You're so charismatic and you're so hot and stuff like this because you look so good. And then I'm like, but then the actual conscious side of me says, what the hell are you saying? Wake up. You are a 16-year-old boy. Okay, you have better things to think about than yourself. And there was a talk a couple of days ago at my school where they talked about narcissism, which I feel like is a great topic to bring up at school. And but one of the things I disagreed with was that he said the, it's so hard to diagnose narcissism in young teens because everybody has it. And I feel like that's such a weird statement because I've met so many people, especially in the situation where I am, that they are so caring and like they think about everyone else before themselves. And I feel like that's not something that's not something. Do I get mushrooms from these? Hello? But that's not something I would like say because I feel like so many people I meet are so caring and nice and like they think about others before themselves. And I thought that this statement was kind of ridiculous because obviously you can't talk to every teenager. But here's the thing. I feel like I have two sides, you know? I feel like there's one side of me who says, "Yes, you're not narcissistic, but I don't know." And then the other side of me says, "That's the narcissistic side of you saying that. Maybe you are narcissistic." And the collision of that just stresses me out because I really never know. I really never know if I'm as narcissistic as I think I am or if I'm as talkative as I need to be. And that's something an insecure person has. And I am an insecure person. I'm going to put that as the title because, I can. But yeah, I feel like insecure people, there's two sides to the coin, just like there's two sides to a person. There's that egotistical side that I feel like everybody has, and then there's the side of someone that really just thinks they are that, and that's not necessarily, no, there's a side of a person that thinks they're not that, and I feel like that's the side of someone that I would want to, like if I could, I would want to keep that side, but then I see myself really being that side the entire time, and then I just see myself being miserable and like always insecure, or not always insecure, but never doing anything. And there's a balance between doing too much and doing too little. Right now, in my life, I would say I'm doing too little in school, and perhaps in relationships too. I'm just not doing enough for the people that I care about, and yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move on to. That was an insane intro. The intro just went like back and forth all the way until like we start talking about insecurity. That makes no sense. But one thing that I wanted to talk about today was, okay, this shit is gonna be like an hour long. I don't even know. Um, One thing I wanted to talk about today is this girl, and I'm not gonna get into names and stuff, but let's just call her K. And first, I'm gonna give you some context. My girlfriend broke up with me, or my ex broke up with me, a little over a month ago, a little under a month ago, and it hit me hard, mainly because I didn't think I did anything wrong. I still don't think I did anything majorly wrong, and from the reasons she gave me, I don't think I did anything wrong. But and then again, there's that two sides of me, and one side of me thinks, hey, you did do something wrong, and you're just trying to like get yourself out of it, which I would like to. I would want to do that. But the thing is, with the stuff she told me, right, about the reasons why she broke up with me, it wasn't. She said she fell out of love, which that's her thing. Okay, I can't control that. I'm not Cupid. But the most annoying parts is when it's things about me that I can't control. Okay, I hate that. Like when it's things about me that I can't control, I hate that. 'Cause like what am I supposed to do? I can't control it. One of the things she said was you live too far. My family is not the richest, okay? Yes, we're rich emotionally, but I'm definitely gonna say that we are not the richest, okay? And for the house that we live in, we get a great deal. But one of the things she said is I just have to be with someone. I want to be with someone who I can be with physically every day for 24 hours. Those were her words, which I thought were ridiculous because then you're never gonna find anybody until you get married, because that's husband. That's someone that's almost the definition of husband, someone you're always with. You know, it just doesn't make sense that she would say that. And then she also said I didn't think it would get too serious, and that hit me. Okay, because in my mind, I thought she was the one taking it to new levels. You know, I thought she was the one taking it to new levels, not me. She was talking about going on birth control, um, even though we had never really well, we had, but we hadn't talked about having that up until much, much later. Not especially not now. Like she was talking about starting to take it in December for And I don't know, it was weird because obviously I have nothing to complain about. You know, it's her body. I can't control that. But it was just a weird situation because I was like, if it's not for me, then who else? And I feel like that's definitely an insecure part of me talking, thinking, oh, she's cheating on me. But she wasn't. But she was. She eventually did cheat on me. And I found out after she had broken up with me, and that hit me hard too. And the way I found out too wasn't the best. It was through it was through one of her friends. And I'm not gonna leak the name. Obviously, I'm not gonna leak anybody's name. But that 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 part when she said it's 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 getting too serious, it hurt me because I thought that I had been doing just enough, you know, not too much, not too little, that little Goldilocks area. But it turns out I had apparently been doing so much more to the point where she felt the need to break up with me because of that. And now this is the part where this is the part where I say I'm taking this seriously because I genuinely want to believe, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt and not just because, oh, she just wanted to get back with her ex, you know? That's not fair to her if I didn't believe her. Like, I want to give everybody a fair chance. And eventually it just didn't turn out my way. But I really do want to preface that cheating is a terrible thing. And the one thing I'm glad about is that she did break up with me a little after. No, she broke up with me before she did a lot more. Okay, but it still hurt. It still felt like I had taken a shot to the heart, and like, because I did get cheated on, and the timing about what she did after just did not feel right. You know, the day after we broke up, she had gone to school with her ex, had hickeys on her neck, had a hoodie, had his hoodie on, and when I heard that, it ruined my day, if I'm gonna be honest. And I feel like, how are you not? How did your day not get ruined by finding out that your girlfriend cheated on you? And yeah, it ruined my day. Let's just be simple. Oh shoot. But yeah, like I feel like she was just not very good with the timing, and I feel like when I had met her, I had thought of her as such intelligent, emotionally and intelligent, physically person that I would think that she would never do anything like this. But I was so wrong, you know? And she had basically just gone against everything she had told me in the relationship, and I that hurt, you know? You get hurt by these things. And I'm gonna finish up soon because I have maybe 10 minutes left. But it hurt me because she went against everything she had told me in the relationship, and that just showed me how shallow people can be. Now, that's the context, right? And now, right, it's weird. I wouldn't say it's like a hoe phase, but I'm in a phase where I'm single and multiple people are like messaging me because I'm not single. And I feel it's stressful, because at the same time, I'm not trying to lead this girl on. I'm not trying to lead Kay on, but I'm so glad she messaged me about it because she had felt it too. And I feel like this is one of the things an emotional person will do. But I don't know if that's just me or if that's just my mind trying to make stuff up. Because I met her at a party and she was drunk and I wasn't drunk because I don't drink anymore. And essentially, right, she was all over me and I didn't do anything because I'm not going to do anything with someone who's intoxicated. I don't have their consent, you know? And even my friend whose party it was, he's been wanting to talk to her for a while. So I laid off a little bit near the end and at the like around halfway through the party and I let him talk to her. And even me and him both agreed that she's way too drunk to be talking to or to have anything happen. And that's one of the reasons I'm friends with him because I know he's very intelligent or he's very aware, you know. And but eventually she texts me, right? I don't know how. I think she got my Instagram from the group chat, but she texts me and we start talking, right? And then she asks me out, which is weird. This is something that doesn't really happen to me often. Usually it's the guy that has to ask the girl out, but she was the one asking me out, which is probably the reason I said yes. And this not only comes down to the shock factor as like a guy getting asked out, but also like when I was a kid, when I was in middle school, I had really bad FOMO, and my friend did too. But let's call this friend Z, right? And Z and me, we were very similar. We both had ADHD, and he took medication, I didn't. And he would go out a lot, and he would invite me out a lot. And a lot of the times I would come out, but when I didn't, they would just make me feel really bad, and that kind of reflected like onto me. And now I feel like if I don't go out with someone, if they invite me, I feel like I'm a bad person and that I'm doing like I'm not doing enough to be with them, like hang out with them and have quality time with them. And that's why I said yes, like instinctively. I said yes. I wouldn't say no instinctively. And I think that's a big problem because especially with my parents, they're smart people. They want context before I go out. They want to know who I'm with and they want to know exactly when it's planned for. Oh shoot, my ankle. They want to know who I'm with. They want to know like when is this happening and obviously they want me to ask for permission. And a lot of the time when I get in trouble with them for going out with before asking them, it's because I said yes to something, but really I didn't really like think about it because I have that FOMO. Okay, so now let's get back to K. And so then we went out, right? And it was really fun. We had a good time. We watched a movie, got some good food. And I hadn't really done anything physical. I had my hand on her thigh and we were holding hands. We didn't kiss or anything. And it was chill. Like we were talking. She definitely got the sense that I'm more of a dry texture. But the thing is, I'm not. Okay, I used to be such a not wet texture. I used to be a very I used to text so much. Like this is where I thrived. Okay, I was an online guy. Back in the day when I was in middle school, I was just always online, always on a game, always like talking to people, and that's how I got a lot of my social skills. And I feel like there's good and bad things about that. Obviously, I don't understand every social cue, which sucks. Like, obviously, I want to understand what people are saying, but sometimes I can't. Like, it's physically hard. It's hard for me to understand where people like what they truly mean from their very vague expressions, and I'm not like I sound nerdy saying this, but I'm not. And when I do talk online, I feel like I can be I'm not the most expressive, but I can get to a point where I can be. And one of the things I feel like I struggle with ADHD is that I don't get all the words that I need to get out. Okay, because either the insecurity guy comes back and it's like, "Oh, you're doing too much or you're talking too much or you're going to annoy them." Or it's just like it's hard for me to say everything I need to say. You know, like when I'm typing an essay, it's hard to get in all my ideas. It's not just with other people, it's like for school and stuff, which is annoying, right? So then with Kay, I feel like that happened a lot, you know? And like when I was texting her, I would be like, I'd be super dry, or I would be busy and not tell her I'm busy, things that should repel someone, but for some reason she stayed. And yeah. So then eventually, my friend, S, who was her friend too, who is her friend too, sent me a message, and apparently she's been calling him and asking him, and I don't know, because I feel like a lot of the time he does this just to get me mad. Obviously, I don't want a girl I'm talking to be calling another guy. And I'm not saying, and I feel like that's really hypocritical of me because a lot of the time I'll be like, oh, it's just a talking stage. I don't have to be super committed to this, you know? Like, I don't have to be super committed to it. It's just a talking stage. But at the same time, like, this is my friend. I feel like it's kind of weird if you're talking to me and my friend at the same time, you know? Do you understand what I mean? Like, that's the annoying part for me. So, yeah. But he had told me she was texting him and like, and that, huh? Okay. And that she had been really worried about me and like where this is gonna go, you know? And that's a valid thing to be worried about because I don't know. When you are someone that takes things seriously, you're a logical person and you want to make sure that the time you're putting into something is actually going to give a return, you know? And that's the logical thing to do, but emotionally, it's so hard to do that because I don't think effort between two people will ever be equal. It's so hard to be equal until you're doing too much, you know? Can I complete? Oh, wow. But I feel like at a certain point, it goes to where two people are doing too much, and I feel like that's what she was worried about, which is valid. Like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but it might have just been me being very insecure and not talking as much because I'm worried about what could happen. And now, so she sent me this long paragraph, and I read it, and essentially it just talks about how she doesn't she could see something going along with this, but she wants to know if I actually like her. And here's the thing, which is weird because this is why context is so important. A lot of people have different definitions of what liking means. For me, liking means finding someone attractive and finding their personality attractive. And but to someone else that could mean like specifically wanting to date someone, and I don't feel like that applies to me. I don't think I would do that with a lot of the people I like. that's where we're gonna end off today. I'm gonna talk more about this girl and other girls tomorrow.